Jim Bryson is a writer, ghostwriter, and producer of books for the self-publishing market. He has over 20 years of experience working with Christian authors in fiction and nonfiction, as well as writing his own short stories and articles. Recent work includes projects with Harold Eberle, Jeff Eklund, Clay Nash, and Regina Stark. His passion is to cultivate the voice of God's people with clarity and power. Come on up, Jim.
All right. Thank you. I needed that. You're going to find out in a minute I'm not much of a public speaker. I can assure you I'm much a better writer than I am a public speaker. But I figure that's okay because, ma'am? Sorry. See? Yeah, okay, what I was saying, I'm not much of a public speaker. I'm much more of a writer. But I can look out and I can see a lot of you, and I know that you are mostly awesome public speakers, so I guess it equals out somewhere. Most of my work is with Christian leaders. Most of it is through the self-publishing market, which is exploding. And it's exploding for the good, and it's exploding for the bad. The good is just about anyone with a few bucks can get a book, can get a message out, can reach an audience. Unfortunately, not all of those people should, and I'm just going to tell you straight out, okay? My passion, what drives me, what keeps me up at night, what pushes me past what any sane person would continue on, is to produce for people with pure hearts something that's readable, something that's reachable, something that's teachable, something that can touch someone else on another part of the country, another part of the world. You can write a line, put it in a book. It can travel the globe. That person will find that line, never know you, never will. You'll meet in heaven somewhere, and that line will change their life. That's the power of books. We've got iPads, we've got iDocs, we've got the new line of eyewear. They're making clothing now. No, it's a Bill Johnson joke. I told my wife I wouldn't sell that one. Anyway, the book. Don't miss the book. The book is still there. The book has always been there. All right. Now, what makes a book a quality product? Let's think about how people learn. Let's think about how you reach them. For me as a reader, to believe what you're going to tell me, I have to be able to trust you. All right? That's fair. I have to trust you. I have to have some measure of trust. But to trust you, I have to know you. I have beginning to know you. And to know you, I have to see you. And to see you, you have to be willing to reveal you. Okay? Now, what I see time and time and time again are well-meaning Christian authors who want to give the answers to all of life's questions, everything they've been striving for 20, 30, 40 years. Finally, I've reached the mountaintop. Finally, the finger of God came down. Finally, the lines were written on the code. And so they want to publish the answers, and I get that a lot, okay? And I understand, I begin to understand their hearts. But what they don't understand is that for the reader to appreciate the answer, they have to appreciate the question. To appreciate the question, they've got to appreciate the thirst and the hunger and the busted knees and the hell that they went through and the heaven that they attained, okay? And that's what we work with. And where do we, I'm going to hit that thing. Where do we find that struggle, okay? We find that struggle in people's stories. And what I say is, don't tell me your theology. Tell me your story, and then tell me your theology, okay? Tell me your story. And you know what? By the time you're done telling me your story, I can tell you your theology because you live it, all right? one of the keys in writing, and it applies both to fiction and nonfiction, and I should also add, there's an entire genre of writing that I adhere to, and it's called creative nonfiction. Anyone that works in the craft has heard of this. Truman Capote invented it. He began to take news story. He started it with Cold Blood. Creative nonfiction. When I say story, I mean every bit true, but you can tell it with a creative element. You can tell it with a dramatic flair. You can tell it as it really happened. All right? Okay, where did I go with that? Help me, where was I? To see the story, to understand what the person went through to come to their conclusion, okay? All they have to do is tell me the story. Tell me a story from your life. Tell me where you came from. Tell me where you were when you got the idea, when you got the thirst, where you got that. Tell me how it happened. Okay. Again, I'll get a manuscript, and the manuscript says, I've got it, I've got the answer. Here's how I can change the world with a half a pack of Lucky Strikes and 59 cents. Okay, great. How did you arrive at this conclusion? And oh, by the way, tell me about the world that you did change. All right. So the second thing we find in writing, the first thing we find in writing is here's all the answers. Okay, well, I need to know your struggle. But the second thing I find in writing is I think this will work. I think this will work. I want to advance this idea. I want to advance that idea. That's fine over a cup of coffee, all right? 2 guys, 3 guys, 2 girls sitting around brainstorming. Where it falls down is when it's presented as proven fact, okay? How do we prove a fact? How do we prove a theology? We live it. We live it. Your stories tell me what you've lived, and they tell me what you haven't lived. Your stories tell me, they show me, that's where I was going to go, they show me where you've been, what you know, and more importantly, they show me what you don't know and what you haven't lived. And there's no shame in that. One of the most powerful things I ever heard a leader say, and it changed my life, and he's sitting right there. He said, my present understanding is this. A man who can be that honest is a man I can begin to trust, is a man I can begin to get to know, a man I can begin to see because he's revealing himself. He's revealing himself. Anybody says they've got all the answers, run, okay? Okay, so this is what I look for in when I work on a book. The second thing I look for is with this principle in mind. No one has to read what you write, okay? Maybe your spouse, okay? Maybe your kids, maybe your congregation. Beyond that, the world doesn't owe you readership. They don't, okay? Now, let's think about the heart of a reader, all right? Let's think about what goes on in a reader. Here is a reader's heart. I'll do a reader's heart for you. Tell me a story. Tell me something. Attract me. Hook me. Draw me in. Thrill me. Chill me. Lift me up. Throw me down. Break me apart. Put me back together. Take me somewhere I've never been. Engage me. The heart of a reader wants to be taken. It wants to be held. It wants to be put back where it was better. That's the heart of a reader. How many books of theology can you think of that really, really do that? All right? Paul Young changed the world, and he did it with theology, but he did it with theology in story. Now, I get a lot of what I work with on Harold could be considered pure theology, but it's not, because I encourage him to pull his story into it. Okay, somewhere, if I read it as a reader, if I read a theology, okay, I should have an idea of who the person is and why they're telling me the things they're telling me. I worked with a man in St. Louis, and ex-Navy, kind of a hardcore kind of guy. And I said, Joe, your thoughts are good, but we need to know a little more about you. So he puts a little more in it. Joe, this isn't good enough. Joe, you got to bleed. And he sat back for a minute. He said, Jim, I don't bleed well. I said, yeah, I know. I can see that. So this is what we worked on. All right. So as you're working, I'm sure there's a lot of book projects in the room. I know we have a lot of authors here. Keep that in mind. Nobody's obliged to read your stuff. And I'm going to be frank with you. A lot of them, they're not going to read it. They're not going to read it if it's not entertaining, if it's not... It's got to be good, okay? And we could define good. I've got 10 minutes, and I can't. How would I define good? Remember, okay, here's how I'll define good. You're riding a subway, You're on your way to work. Maybe it's the morning. You're making lunches for your kids. Maybe the day is over and you're going to look at your iPhone somewhere along, and you're looking for some inspiration. Yeah, I'm looking for some inspiration. So you hit a verse of the day button, and up comes the verse of the day. And the verse says, "Stand fast and see the salvation of our God." Hey, okay. Hey, it's encouraging. Hey, look, the Seahawks are going to play at 3 o'clock. All right, let's go. Yeah. Now, you're the guy that wrote that line. And here's what you went through to write that line. You met a God on a burning bush on a desert after you escaped Egypt and to beat a murder rap. You stood in front of the most powerful leader in the nation. You defied his armies. You defied his magicians. You defied his occult. You defied the devil, all at the behest of this God who shows up as a burning bush. All right? And when the 10th plague and the angel of death is moving across the land, okay, and the firstborn of Egypt are dropping dead, you lead 100,000 slaves out of Egypt, the backbone of the economy, all at the behest of this God. Now, you're heading across the desert, and you're following this God, and he leads you to an impassable sea. And you come, and everything stops. And the people are looking at you, and you're looking at God. And the people are looking at you about between the chin and the shoulders. Things are not looking good. And you say to your God, "Now what? Now what?" And off in the distance, the dust is rising, and here comes the armies of Egypt. And what was a bad situation just got worse, all right? And that God speaks to you. He speaks a word to you, and you look at the people, and you say, "Stand fast and see the salvation of your God," all right? Now, do you see the difference? All right? When you give me a manuscript, I'm going to see, "Stand fast and see the salvation of your God." And I'm going to say, "I want to talk. Let's talk." And the reason I want to talk is because I want to see your heart. Because if I can see your heart, I can fix your words. And by God, I will. But I have to see your heart. The first part of this is what I do, and the second part of it is why I do it. And I got to tell you, I meet the most beautiful people in this job. The most beautiful people. Because I can take their words and I can distill it. I follow it like a rabbit hole, and it leads me to their pure hearts. I will walk with an author heart to heart long before we begin fixing the words. They think I'm fixing the words. I'm not. I'm fixing them. And I don't mean fix. No, I don't put these people in overhaul. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying somewhere along the line, they got inspired. Somewhere along the line, God put something in them. It's getting it out in a pure form. That takes a bit of effort. The way I like to put it, they went out and got themselves pregnant. I'm the midwife. I'm here for a safe delivery. All right? It might look a little cheesy. It might need a little oxygen, but we're going to clean it up, and it'll be hanging on the left teat in a moment, and you'll be just fine. Okay? Did I say that? One of the things I like about writing is I can sit alone in the dark, and I have this wonderful feature called Control-Z. I can write something, I can go, "This is awful," hit Control-Z, and it's gone. Unfortunately, public speaking does not afford that. Writing is from the heart. It has to be from the heart. And it has to be evaluated rigorously once we get to the source. Once we get to the source. Nothing else can take the place. I can tell where a writer is in that process by what they present. I work a lot with first-time writers. I don't know how many times I've heard, "Well, I have a book in me," or "My computer has a book in it," or "My closet has several books in it." And I always say, "Let me see, let me see, let me take a look." And I get a variety of reactions, and "It's not ready, I can't show you, it's not fit for human consumption." Of course it's not. That's why you're talking to me. That's why I'm here. You do what you need to do. Let me do what I need to do. My job is to make you better. That's my passion. I love your heart. I love your heart. Writing reveals you. I will find it with you. I will purify your heart, and I will purify your words. And long after I'm gone, because I don't give a whatever what happens to me, your book is going to go. Now, am I promising you a New York Times bestseller? No, I am promising you that your book will hit its desired target with its desired message, and with any blessing, it'll hit some targets and some messages you never even realized were in there, okay? That's what I do. Your part is to bring it forth. You have to bring it forth, okay? How can I hope this is all right? I can't get you pregnant. That's God's job, okay? Can't. It's not my problem. Your problem is to come waddling into the waiting room. We'll put you on some prenatal vitamins and get you all set up, all right? Oh, so you understand the process. Yes. Key to writing is don't tell, show. Don't tell. Any writing student knows that. Don't tell, show. Janet Burroway, narrative craft of writing. Here's what I mean. Don't tell me about God's hand. Don't tell me about 5 fingers, knuckles, fingernails. Don't tell me about the hand of God. Tell me about the caress of God. Tell me about the firm pressure on the back. Tell me about the support around the arms. Show me the hand of God. Don't just tell. I hope you understand that. Often a writer thinks they have to describe things in minute detail. They don't. They need to describe. They need to relay the impression. And there's a greater vulnerability in that, okay? Often when people write, especially in the area of theology, they write from almost a protective stance, okay? Because let's face it, you put it out there, somebody's going to attack you. I don't care what it is. My day job is engineering. I don't care what I want to build anywhere in the world, somebody's going to protest me. And then they're going to come back and say, what was it again? Oh, yeah, I'm against it, all right? So you've got to get past this. You've got to get past this, and you've got to accept the vulnerability. Again, often what I do with writers is I'm leading them in the writing process. They've got to start. Their start will lead me to their heart. And as we build trust together, I can begin to refine that. I can begin to purify that. All right? So Anne Lamott wrote a writing book called Bird by Bird. She said every writer writes terrible first drafts. Every writer does. The difference, what makes a writer, is they stay in the seat. They stay at the keyboard, and they write the second draft, and the third draft, and the fourth draft, and they don't quit. They don't quit. They don't give up. I think everybody has a writer in them. I'm not sure everybody has the finish in them, okay? Steve Jobs, I believe, I'm going to mangle a Steve Jobs quote. I think I'm in good company. But he said, true innovators ship. They ship. What does he mean by that? He says your product reaches delivery, and it goes, okay? That manuscript in your heart, on your computer, with your wife or your husband, is going to do very little good. I mean, there's a process in writing. There's a good part of writing. I'm glad you did it. But until you get it out, what good is it? What good is it? All right. One more key part. People buy from people. Everything I'm telling you today comes down to that. People buy from people. You're writing something. You're selling something. You're selling an idea. You're selling it through your story. You're selling your credibility through your personal life. People buy from people. Don't try to be anything less. Don't try to be the theologian. Don't try to be the distinguished scholar. Don't try to be the remote guy in the ivory tower. It's not going to work, or it's not going to work for long, okay? Be who you are. Be us. Be with us. Join us, all right? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to write. Don't be afraid to share. Don't think it's not good enough. Just do it. Absolutely do it. Your hearts are beautiful. Your writing will reveal you, okay? What I do is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I kid you not. It is so much work. It taxes me. It takes everything I have. And I'm going to do it again and again and again. And it's for one reason. Your hearts are worth it. Your hearts are beautiful. They really are. And if you let your writing reveal that, the world is going to know it too. They're going to know the beauty that God has created in you. They're going to know God through you. They're going to know God through your stories. They're going to know God through your life. They're going to know God, what God did. Don't tell me what he is. Tell me what he did. All right? That's powerful writing. That's where I take you. In Jesus' name, I love you. Goodbye.